Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. So I'll just ask if you can please take a seat, and we'll start our program here in just a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's nice to see you all here today. And thanks for being here. My name is Genevieve Kirk, and I'm the Center for Nonprofit Excellence Director at the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois. And this is our third Bootcamp session of the year, which we are calling Secrets to Successful Fundraising. So I hope you're here for those secrets and to learn how you can engage your board members to contribute to that process. Earlier this year, we surveyed nonprofits in our community to better understand their challenges, and we heard the comment over and over again that they need help training their boards to learn about and engage in fundraising efforts. So that is our goal for today's session. Today, we'll talk about ways to assess your board and develop an action plan to improve their engagement. We're excited that you're joining us in this journey today. I wanted to get a sense of who's in the room today. So if you are a board member or board chair, could you please raise your hand? Okay, lots of board members, board chairs, thank you. If you're an executive director or CEO of a local nonprofit, can you raise your hand? Okay, also a good size. If you're a development director or on the development team staff, could you raise your hand? A few development directors, welcome. And anyone else? Feel free to raise your hand. You're in our other category. Well, here's our agenda for this afternoon. I will start by introducing our co-presenters to you. Then our co-presenters will walk you through some training material, including ways that your board can support your organization's development efforts. We'll plan to spend our final 10 to 15 minutes together today with Q&A. So if you have questions you'd like to direct to our co-presenters, you'll have an opportunity for that after they've had time to present. And we will end our time together promptly at 5 p.m. I want to extend a special thanks to the Champaign Public Library for hosting and marketing this event with us. Thanks, Madeline. And just a couple housekeeping notes here. If you need to use the restroom, you can access those as you exit this door, go back towards the main entrance. They'll be on your right-hand side. The doors will be over on the right. We ask that you please silent or mute your cell phone during the presentation for the benefit of other participants. We also want to make you aware that this session is being recorded for the benefit of participants who were unable to join us in person today. And a recording of today's session will be made accessible on the library's YouTube channel later this week. We also ask that you would keep just any whispering or talking to a minimum because the audio recording is very sensitive. I've heard that from our library staff, so if you could help with that accommodation, that would be great. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our co-presenters today. Julie Melton is the Assistant Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Richland Community College. She has over 20 years of development experience, specializing in fundraising, capital campaigns, annual giving, marketing strategies, and community engagement. Julie is also adjunct faculty at North Park University, where she teaches courses in nonprofit management and fundraising for nonprofit organizations. Matt Whitehead is a board member and treasurer at the Richland Community College Foundation. He's a lifelong Decatur resident and spent the last 6 years working at the YMCA serving as its CEO. He currently works at GJ Builders Hardware in Decatur. Would you all join me in welcoming Julie and Matt today?
Can everyone hear me? Am I loud enough? Do I need to go stand over here? Yes, please. Okay. Sorry, I'm a walker and a talker. Okay, this might be hard for me. So Matt has been a board member for us for about 5 years, or I think he's on his 6th and final year, or fifth out of 6 year. But Matt is an alumni of Richland Community College. He has been extremely engaged over the last 4.5, 5 years that he has been on the board. And I remember meeting him for the first time. I said to him, Matt Whitehead, I have my eye on you. I'm going to bring you on the board. And that's exactly what we did. So today I'm not going to talk necessarily about secrets for fundraising. I do not ask my board to go out and fundraise. We, as fundraisers, know how to fundraise. We are taught, we learn, we fundraise. What I find the secret to fundraising success is that we have an engaged board and a knowledgeable board so that they can go out and talk about our mission, and we can go out and do things, and I can bring someone like Matt along that is comfortable talking to other communities about the work that we're doing on our board and at the college. And so I'm going to talk to you more about board engagement and the things that we have really been putting in place the last 4 years, essentially, since 2018, to get our board to a place of being more engaged, to a place where we have built really amazing partnerships, and to a place where we're almost this year going to double our revenue. We've been slowly increasing our revenue. Last year we saw a pretty large increase, and this year we're anticipating about 100% increase in revenue. And that's all been based on making sure we have really strong board relationships and the right people on the board. So I think I can just, is there a clicker, or what's the best way to do this? Okay, so I leave you with this quote here. Exceptional boards add significant value to their organizations, making a discernible difference in advancing their mission. Exceptional boards make governance intentional and not incidental. So what we're doing, the steps that we're talking about, is making that governance intentional and not just happen year after year, putting things in place so that we are seeing really good results year after year. So let's look at how an engaged board can lead to increased fundraising. So these are the keys, we believe, to successful board engagement: planning, recruitment, assessment, education and experiences, and engagement activities. Now, this is a work in progress. We constantly have work to do, and along with that, we constantly have work to do. Some of these things are things that you're already probably doing, and the good thing about that is, if these are things you're already doing, then you're on the right track. If not, then these are things that can be easily implemented. So Matt, you want to come up here and join me at any point as we go through these things, and I'll have you jump in a little bit. Okay. So first we're going to talk about planning. So we put together an annual plan. I based this annual plan, this is an excellent book, off of a book by Jeff Bagel. It's on the CASE website. If you're a CASE member, it's called something along Planning for Small Nonprofit Organizations. I can send Genevieve the title and a link to it, but it gives a step-by-step overview. What I've done here is given you a copy of the page that's specific to board relationships and communications, but I also have a page related to annual giving, a page related to major gifts. Our entire plan is about, depending on if we have our calendar in there, it's anywhere from 20 to 30 pages. We take an abbreviated plan to the board, and this is kind of what the abbreviated plan looks like. So at the beginning of each year, we put together an annual plan on how we are going to enhance our board relationships through increased communication and accountability. So our board is really, at this point, really engaged. We do have, every once in a while, we have a member that maybe has something come up, a life experience that they aren't expecting, that gets them less engaged. So we kind of talk through that. But for the most part, every single one of our board members serves 2 full terms, which is 6 years, which is actually a really long time, before they roll off our board and become emeriti. Our goals and our outcomes that we're achieving with our board plan is to achieve 100% board giving. We don't necessarily care about the amount, but we feel that it's important that every single person on our board gives regardless of amount. Matt can attest to this. I send out emails specifically to board members asking them to give with a link to the giving page and asking them to give any amount that they are comfortable with. Normally, by the end, when I'm getting towards the end of the fiscal year, I may have 1 to 2, and most likely they just forgot. And most of the time, unless again there's some kind of life experience, we are at 100% giving. We are always looking at achieving 100% responses in our annual board assessment, and we will go through that. And then we want to improve areas indicated as needs work on our annual assessment. So we will go through those assessment things, and then you can kind of go through our tactics. I'm not going to go through all of those, but you can kind of see what our plan is and what we work to implement through the academic year or the fiscal year. Next up, when we're recruiting board members, we put together FAQs. So that's kind of this document. I did not fully put this together on my own. This is a best practice that I took from Harper College and personalize it to Richland Community College. The best thing you can do as a fundraiser is use what other people put together. There is no reason everything you do needs to be 100% unique. Just know your audience and know where you're located. You may not want to recreate something. For me, at the food bank, I did not want to recreate something that Crisis Nursery was doing. But when I went to Richland, I used things from the food bank, different markets, different audiences. So it can absolutely be done, but just know you don't want to recreate things that people in this community are doing. So this is just an FAQ that I put together that I personalized for Richland, and it goes through various questions that I felt that were important to Richland Community College for our board members, just to give them before we even begin the recruitment process, just so people know what they're getting themselves into. What is the foundation? What is a 501c3 organization? What does that mean? We have a college board of trustees and we have a foundation board. What does that relationship look like? What is my fiduciary responsibility? Just all of those questions that they might have for me, I kind of lay it out for them. What are their expectations? What are their roles? Do I need to give? What are our priorities? Let's see. Do I need to attend all events? What does that look like for me as a board member? What is my expectations? And so we really outline that for them before they even agree to be on the board, so they know exactly what's expected of them. Because there's nothing worse than being a board member and not knowing your expectation and feeling like you're never living up to what you should be doing, because maybe you don't know what you should be doing. And I know I felt that as a board member, and sometimes I felt it overseeing a board as well. And then the next, there's a couple of different ones here. This is our board member job descriptions. So this is called board member job descriptions. We also have a committee action plan. This was actually originally created by Crisis Nursery. I replicated it for the food bank and replicated it again for Richland. So some documents are oldies but goodies and can be reused over and over again. And then Resurrection Healthcare is another one. You may not know, but I previously worked at Provena. Provena and Resurrection merged to become Presence. So we worked really closely with Resurrection Healthcare, and this is their board member expectations. So there's a lot of similarities between a job description and board member expectations, but all of them really outline whatever, and you can personalize this to your organization. It just really outlines everything that you're expecting of them: to attend events, to join you on visits, to help you say thank you. It's all of those things. Just outlines it from the very, very beginning. I do not ask my board members to sign and turn them in. I just think that that's a little bit unnecessary, but I do give it to them so that they have it, and then we review it each year. And we actually review it as part of the assessment as well. Matt had a role in a lot of these later things, so I'll let him jump in on some of these other things. Okay, so the next step is recruitment. So hopefully this will all go well for me when I link, but if not, I will send you these links. Oh, yes. There we go. So we have a prospective board member nomination form. This was obviously a Word document a few years ago. We now put it all online through Microsoft Forms. This essentially just is what we ask our current board to fill out to nominate someone for the board. So the questions are nominee information. So who are they nominating? What company or organization are they with? What is their title, phone number, email? And then some of the things that we want to know, are they alumni? Are they a supporter? Have they been asked? I don't want to reach out to them if they're not even interested. We want to make sure that they have some interest and or willingness to serve. And they're not currently serving on another board of directors with a similar mission and has no conflict of interest. I mean, there's a lot of, you know this, volunteers, board members, the ones that are most active normally are serving on a lot of boards. But you don't want them to be overwhelmed. You want them to have the time to commit to serve your board, but sometimes those connections are really good. I have board members that serve on the Decatur Decatur Public Schools Foundation, as well as the Richland Community College Foundation Board. There's a lot of synergy there. It makes a lot of sense. Same as the Decatur Memorial Hospital Foundation Board. A lot of synergy there. It makes sense. We want to make sure that people have time, interest, and that there's no conflict of interest. And then we always kind of want to look at their background and expertise. And I'm going to go through our matrix in just a second, but this is kind of the background and expertise that we're looking for. And then we want them to describe a reason why they think they would be a good board member, how they would strengthen the foundation, what they bring to being a good board member. And a lot of times we're looking for good partnerships in the community, maybe filling a gap, which I'll go through in the matrix, but just somebody that makes a lot of sense for us and not just another person to fill that seat. The best board members that we have are the ones that are already connected to the work we're doing and can build off of those partnerships. Did you have a question? No? Okay. All right, let me see if I can get back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So the next is this and I'm happy to send any of this via email. It's just a really hard document, but this is a very, very, very small document, so you might want to get a magnifying glass out. But I'm going to go through the gist of it. Essentially, we put all of our board members into a matrix, and it's not as bad as it sounds, but we look at whether or not they're alumni, male, female, their ages. That's really fun to guess people's ages because we don't necessarily ask the year they're born. So we were having a conversation in the last board development meeting about how inaccurate or accurate my guesstimates on ages were. Ethnicity, giving potential. I will say we're at the point that every single board member either gives personally or through their organization. So to me, that's just kind of not even a question anymore, but we want to have that out there so our board does see kind of where those gaps are. And then we look at profession. So when we're looking at the gaps, basically we fill in all of this and see where the zeros are, and that's kind of where our target is. And so agriculture. 2 of our board members are completing their second term that have a background in agriculture. We own a farm, the foundation does. We get lots of interest in selling our farm on a regular basis. We need somebody that has an agriculture background so that we can really lean on that individual for that help. Another area is we don't have anybody with a law background. We don't have anyone from social service or nonprofit, and there's really great, again, synergy, potential partnerships there. We have a really amazing culinary department. We don't have anyone from the hospitality industry. So kind of I highlighted the areas in yellow, and those are where we will target kind of our gaps to see what we need and see what makes sense for our board and where we can grow our partnerships. And The next step for recruitment, and I'm going to let Matt talk more about this, is our mentor program. So,
Hello, thanks again for having us. The mentoring program was something that we started at the Richland Community College Foundation, I think back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. We thought it was, at the time I was head of our board development committee, and being that we meet quarterly instead, most boards that I've been on meet monthly, this one only met quarterly. I thought it was extremely important that we make sure that new board members get engaged and feel part of the board and part of the mission. So we implemented, it was something I did at the Y with my board at the Y. We have a new board mentoring program. And you can read through all the different things, but basically it's the mentor is there with the new board member at the orientation. They take the tour with them. They sit next to them at the meetings to make sure that, it's kind of nice when you walk into a room to see a friendly face and somebody to talk to. Also, that's a person that they can ask. I don't know about you. I mean, I'll say anything in front of anybody, but I always hate to ask questions because you don't want to ask that dumb question. So it's nice to have a mentor that you can ask those questions of after the meeting that you don't want to ask in a meeting. Introduce your mentee to the board members, to other people associated with the organization, staff. I think that's very helpful. And also go into the special events where there may be 100 people in the room, but having that person there that you can talk with and will introduce you to people. So this is something that we're doing, that we match up an existing board member that's been on the board at least for a couple years. With our new board members to really help them get engaged. Because in my experience at the Y, my board members that were engaged were the ones that donated the most and the ones that raised the most money. And so this is our effort to make sure that we're getting our board members engaged from the first day that they join the board.
and along with that, so Matt talks about an older board member or one that's been on the board for a couple of years with a new board member. We also always have a succession plan in place. So I always know who my chair is going to be. I actually always know who my chair is going to be for the next in 3 years, because we always operate kind of on an officer model. So I know who treasurer, secretary, vice chair, chair is. So there's never a question of what my executive committee is going to look like and who's going to be in that place. That happened my first year, and it was kind of a scramble, like, oh, who's going to be a chair? And then it's, oh, I'll be chair again one more year. That never works out well. Having a succession plan in place is really important. Having board limits is really important. I can talk to you about planning, putting together, changing your bylaws to actually add honorary board chairs if you need to have that special person that you keep on the board for years and years and years. We have those special people, but they don't need to be part of your core board or your voting board, and they definitely don't need to be part of your succession planning. But being part of your overall board is really important. So honorary board members can be part of that planning. Next up is board assessment and self-evaluation. Matt actually had a huge role in doing this as well. This was something that we put together based on his recommendations from what they were doing with the YMCA. But we did a board assessment as well as a self-evaluation. And this is another Microsoft form. So we asked our board members to say their name. Essentially, I want to know who completed it, not that I'm tracking, but I need to know that, again, we're aiming for 100% participation. So I need to know that it was completed and who it was completed by, so I can go back and ask them to complete it if they haven't yet. So these are the board member roles and expectations. So from that, when we talked about board expectations, this is exactly it. They are evaluating themselves as with their board roles and expectations and saying how they're doing.
Pardon me.
No, you're okay.
Somebody that can take me outside the hall.
Sure.
I need to turn my phone off. I'll take your phone.
Okay, so these align directly with those board member expectations that we provided them when they began their term. And then next, it's probably going to tell me I need to fill all this out. That's going to happen. Okay, yes, I am a wonderful board member. I attend 75% of all meetings. I serve on one standing committee. We can just go through these. We do have standing committees. We have a finance committee, a board governance or a board development committee, and a strategic engagement committee. That actually used to be a fundraising committee. We decided that it doesn't work as a fundraising committee. We don't necessarily, it's not helpful for our board to talk about what our fundraising tactics should be. What is helpful for our board is to talk about how they can strategically partner and engage with us and in the community for us. So we changed it to a strategic engagement committee. I do review all my agendas, financial reports, and everything prior to the board meeting, as every good board member would do. I have made a personal contribution. I have participated in one or more foundation events or activities within the last year. We do try to limit those. I mean, every year is a little bit different, but we do not expect our board to attend everything. But we make them aware, and we let them know what's the most important things that they should be attending. I have acted in the best interest in Richland Community College and the foundation. I have stayed informed on major initiatives. I've worked collaboratively with the foundation staff to ensure the budget, policies, and fundraising efforts are consistent with our goals and objectives. I have participated in professional development opportunities, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a second. And then next, we talk about opportunities for engagement. So at the this normally goes out in June. So then we ask them, what committee do you want to be on? And I try to place them on whatever committee they prefer, whatever their favorite committee is. That's kind of where I place them. I want them to be excited to be. Some people want to be on 2. They can be on 2. We do our foundation reviews scholarship applications. And so there is a scholarship selection process. So we need volunteers for that. And then here are all the different engagement activities. I asked them to pick 3. And we're going to go through those in a second. At least one question needs to be completed. Question 13. Oops, I skipped them. I guess I'm going to, okay. And then the last page, let's see what the... Why does that not want to stay? Well, that's quite interesting. Oh, okay, I have to rank them. Ooh, have I created something difficult here, Matt? Are people cursing me on this and I don't even realize it? Okay, and now we get to the foundation board assessment. This is really important because this is how we create an action plan. So I'm going to go through and just say we've done everything we've said we're going to do, but we'll go through all of this in a second in more detail. But this is just basically how we see, as a foundation, how our board members think we're doing and how we're communicating with them and how we're educating them, and so that we can create an action plan if we're not doing what we should be doing, or maybe we're doing it and we're just not communicating it effectively, which I have absolutely found is 100% the case as well. Then we ask them what the priority is for the foundation board to address in the upcoming year, and then we ask them what our greatest areas of opportunities are, as well as any final comments. So that is that. We ask them to do that in June. It takes about probably 15 minutes. We are still working on 100% participation on that assessment, but we do have good enough results that we can put together an action plan. So we're going to go back here. Matt, do you want to add anything about the assessment?
I mean, I can.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I can speak about this assessment from being an executive director and being a board member. I think being an executive director, I liked it because it kind of forced board members to take a look at themselves and say, maybe I haven't been doing this as well as I should. I haven't been attending 75% of the meetings. And so it really gave them an opportunity to do that. It also, if a board member doesn't take the time to fill it out, then I think you got to start asking yourself, should that person even be on the board? And so it also did that too. It kind of helped us maybe identify board members that needed to be asked to no longer be on the board. But then also from a board member standpoint, I love that it helps me refocus on what my responsibilities are as a board member and what I should be doing. It also gives me input to what, it's a place for me to really think and give input to what I think the college should be focused on and what we've done well and as a board. So I feel like that is probably one of the most important tools that I used both at the Y and that we use at Richland Foundation for board engagement and development.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, so then next we are going to go through, oh no, I spoiled that. Okay, we are going to go through, oh, I'm sorry, I actually spoiled that even more because we're not even there yet. Okay, we're going to go through action plans. So you will see this document here is Board Analysis Action Plan. But if you go to page 2 and 3 of that, you're going to actually see Richland Foundation Board Assessment Analysis, which is kind of actually what I did first, and then I created the action plan. But from here, basically this is what I take to the board. I put together a document that says these following items were indicated as needs work by 2 or more board members, and this was indicated as needs work by 1 board member. So what that tells me is 2 or more board members is I'm not communicating it effectively, or we need to make it a priority. 1 board member, it's probably just that 1 board member that I need to talk to just get them up to speed on some things, especially if they're a new board member. So let's go through the indicated by 2 or more board members, because that's probably really where we need to focus our work, especially the Richland Foundation. So the foundation board understands the mission and goals of the foundation and ensures they meet the needs of the college and the community. So we do this at the August board meeting. This was filled out in June. A lot of time passes between August and June. They just may not remember that we do it every August. And sometimes actually on a good year, we do it in May before the fiscal year starts. But we were a little bit behind this year and we did it in August. So they just probably thought we weren't doing it, or we just needed to communicate a little bit better. So I just made that note that the first note said we are going to do it in August, and then I mark it as complete. We have done that. And then potential new foundation board members are identified during the past year as part of the board succession planning. We do that, but that's actually one of our action plan items, so we'll go over that in just a second. Number 3, the board's nominating process ensures the board remains appropriately diverse in respect to representation of programs, gender, ethnicity, culture, economic status, disabilities, skills, and/or expertise. We use the matrix to kind of guide us on what we're doing there, but that is part of our action plan as well. Number 4, the board members receive training about the legal roles and responsibilities of the board and understand their roles and responsibilities. I put together an action plan for that, which I'll go through that, as well as new board members are oriented to the unique aspects of the nonprofit, including mission, bylaws, policies, and programs. So that's kind of part of our action plan, which I'm going to go through. Indicated by 1 board member. They weren't sure if our bylaws were reviewed every 2 to 3 years, because it's every 2 to 3 years, and we recruit new board members every year. So we just need to let people know when our next revision would be, or when the latest revision happened, and when our next review. Again, just a communication thing. Board decisions are implemented on a timely basis. If not, the board is appraised and modified of the decisions. A lot of that has to do with just understanding that a little bit further, so that our board, so that I can just help create an action plan for that. Number 8, the board sets fundraising goals and is actively involved in fundraising. Goals, again, are shared at the August meeting, so that was just a timing thing and communicating that. All board members contribute financially to the organization. One felt that that was not the case. We actually had 94% board members gave in FY21 and 22. We did achieve 100% giving in FY20. I anticipate we'll be there again this year. Board members understand and monitor the financial status of the organization, so we do review policies and procedures as needed, and the budget gets approved at our August board meeting. So there's a lot of things that happened in August that we were just kind of timing-wise, again, needed to be communicated. So you can kind of see the rest of those. Number 12 is the board committees are all active and attend each of their committee work plans. Strategic engagement hadn't been active because it was a fundraising committee, so we really had to shift it to be more of a strategic engagement committee. And then the board receives and reviews copies of the IRS Form 990. They were unaware that we did that. We do that every February. It's required. And we did put together a little board education piece on that. So if you go back to the first page, we created some action plans around recruitment and board roles. So just this gives us an action plan that we can report out to the board and that we can work on and work towards. So recruitment efforts, we are in process of identifying new board members for FY24, if you can believe it's going to be FY24. And also we have the matrix that's utilized to help determine gaps in membership. That's been really helpful. And then board roles. If our board members don't understand their roles and responsibilities, these are things that we try to determine. Do we need an in-person training? Does this need to be communicated? What I find, things like this, a one-sheet document are the best so that we can share that information regularly with our board members. And so that's kind of what we put together for things like that. So let's talk about board education. Again, this goes back to board education. We really try to do as much education as we can. So we have quarterly board meetings. At every single board meeting that we have a board education component. When I'm meeting with the board development committee, I ask them, here are some of the hot things that are going on campus. What does the board want to know a little bit more about? And we decide on a topic from that. However, in the middle, in the interim, there might be something like the 990. How many board members know how to read a 990? Not many, right? Not everybody, because a nonprofit 990 is a little bit different. How many executive directors know how to read a 990? I mean, it's hard. You don't know exactly what you're looking for. And so we did, and I'm not going to share this because Genevieve has told me that this is part of maybe next month's program, but we have a board education 990 piece that I created specifically for Richland that I could give to the board members so they knew exactly what they needed to look for in our 990 when they were reviewing it. And I think that was really helpful. It was my plan to do more things like that, but we will do that for the audit because we're going to be reviewing the audit in November. And so doing something similar like that, so when they're given it, they can kind of say, oh yeah, I need to look for this, I need to look for this. These are the 5 things that are really important specifically to Richland. And so education, we do things around, we do quarterly at the board meetings, we do some one-sheets, but then sometimes we actually do some bigger trainings, especially right now around DEIAB, or we call it belonging, is at Richland, we're really focused on creating belonging and inclusion at Richland. And so we are going to be doing some training around that for our board members. But instead of being training that is only helpful to our board members for their role at Richland, we are creating training that's helpful for them in their roles in their organizations, so that they can go back in their organizations. This is not a one-way street. Our board members, when we recruit them to fill a gap so that we can collaborate better and meet the needs of the community. We do not recruit them so that they can just be our volunteers and do more for us. It's definitely a two-way street. So we want them to get as much out of the relationship as we're getting out of it. The next is board experiences. So I will go to the next slide for this one. So we like to do some fun things with our board. We like to create experiences, especially we're an educational institution, so we can do some fun things. So I know Matt really enjoyed this one, and I think it's about time that we bring it back. We did this in 2019. We have a culinary department. Our chef is amazing, our program director. So we got to do things. We did a chop challenge. We divided our board into 3 teams. They were given a plate of ingredients, and they had to make a 3-course meal that we ate family style pre-COVID. And it was a lot of fun. Our board really, really enjoyed it. This is not the newest presentation, I'm sorry. We also oversee McCletsy, which is the Macon County Law Enforcement Training Center. They do a virtual stimulation over there, so active shooter. We have taken board members over there to do active shooter. The goal for us is to really get our board members engaged in the learning experiences of our students. We have a patient simulator. We have a virtual welding machine. We have a virtual CDL truck. There's all sorts of ways we can do that. And I know not every organization is the same. But I know I can speak to the perspective of the food bank. I worked at Eastern Illinois Food Bank for a while. You can do things like provide tours. Tours are a great way to bring your board members to see the work they're doing. Take them on a ride along, on the food mobile, on a food delivery, on a food pickup. There's so many things that your organizations are doing on a day-to-day basis that's not just extra help, that they get to see what you get to see so that they can be part of why you love what you're doing, right? We're not in nonprofits to make money, are we, right? Okay. So there's a reason why we do what we do, because we love it, we support the mission, and we're passionate about it. So that's what we need to bring to our board members, is the same passion that we feel and get to experience on a day-to-day basis. That's what we need to show them, because mostly we're only telling them about it. They don't get to experience it the way we do, and we want them to experience it. Matt, do you want to add anything?
Well, I wanted to point out real quick, in that picture, that's 2 separate pictures, and it's not 3 men standing around watching a movie. That was actually my team. They were standing around watching me.
That is. That black shirt. Yeah. Right?
I did want to say, though, these activities like this were really good because I knew Richland had a culinary program, but I didn't really know what it consisted of. I'd never been in this room where all the kitchen equipment is. I'd never really got to know the chef and understood what they were doing. So doing these types of activities where you really get to be part of the program as a board member are fantastic.
All right, thanks. No, you're good. You're good. That is Matt's black shirt right there. I did not cut him out. That was how the picture was made, I promise. All right. Okay, so here's 10 easy ways to encourage board engagement. This is on the slideshow, so you have this, but this is the engagement activities that we ask them to sign up for as part of the assessment that they take. So these are really easy. Some are more difficult than others, but people can easily check things off their list. Personalized thank you notes or calls to select donors on a monthly basis. We ask them to do this to 5 a month. Introduce an executive director to at least 2 to 3 new potential supporters annually. So this is where your fundraising is going to come into, or your major gifts is going to come into. I'm not asking them to fundraise, but like anybody, any senior leader, anybody that might have a connection to your organization and also has a connection to your donors, they are great to be part of a visit, right? So you would include a board member just as you would any other that has that relationship and can connect people. Accompany staff on a solicitation or cultivation visit. Again, not asking them to make a ask, you are just asking them to join you for lunch or coffee. Promote Richland Foundation on social media. This is an easy one. Invite friends, family, colleagues to a Richland Foundation special event. Speak frequently about Richland Foundation's programs and missions. So on your thing, I left a little fast facts about Richland Community College. That is like a pocket size little piece. so that board members can easily talk about some key statistics, mission, vision, those types of things. The Community Foundation in Macon County actually recreated it for them, so I will not be offended if you recreate it for yourselves. Identify awareness opportunities through media, social media, letters to the editor, blogs. If my board members say, oh, you should, write a blog for this, or you should do something like this, that's always helpful. I'm not the eyes and ears of everything. So anytime they can offer that to me, that is very helpful. Identify opportunities for funding, matching gifts, sponsorships, grant opportunities. Sponsorships are a great way that board members can get involved, as well as matching gifts. Those are two really important things. And the more that corporate giving is moving to a foundation model, grant opportunities are great as well. So all of those ways our board members can help, especially those in the corporate world. Serve as an ambassador at community events on behalf of Richland Foundation. This just means tell people you're on our board, wear your name tag, be proud, and then serve as a mentor to new foundation board members. So those are 10 easy ways that they can do that. And the last page in your sheet or in your packet is going to be Matt's actually individualized engagement plan. So I put this together for all board members because it's easy for me to say, okay, you signed up for personalized thank you notes calls to select donors. Well, what does that mean? Who's going to send me these names? So I tell him Lauren, who is our annual giving coordinator, will send you these names, contact information, and a script for 5 to 10 donors on the first of every month, what she does. And then you can kind of see some of those other things. So here's the impact, and I alluded to this at the beginning, but here's the impact of our engagement efforts. And again, we've been doing this consistently for about 4 years. Again, COVID was right in the middle of a lot of this, but we still maintained to keep a pretty engaged board over Zoom, which was surprising. So we've had 94 to 100% board giving annually. 94% of our directors have completed two full terms. So we did have one board member that didn't work out. They did not give, and they did not complete two full terms. So that's kind of where those statistics align a little bit. We've seen a 40% increase in fundraising revenue over the last 3 years, and we have received 3 significant major gifts in FY 22-23 tied to board relationships. When we look at gaps too, and I'm sorry I didn't mention this in the matrix, we looked at our top employers of Richland students, and 4 of those were already board members that we have, 4 out of the 5. And so that's a great connection point too that we have. And so in today, you may have seen in the news, but again, we're over in Decatur. We announced a $3.2 million gift. We have a member of the board that's on from DMH on our board, and that connection is there. I mean, we went in there yesterday to do a video and photo shoot in DMH of our alumni, of our students. And so that could not happen unless I had those partnerships and connections in place. And so that's it. That's all I've got material-wise. So hopefully I did not inundate you. As Jill Maxey knows, I have a volleyball game to get to at 5 p.m., so I am talking very quickly. Yes.
You mentioned you meet quarterly, or your board meets quarterly. How often do your committees meet?
They meet, this is an ever-moving target. So they meet in the off months. I will say the challenge with that is you don't feel like you have enough to talk about in some of those months. So, and Matt and I talked about this because, again, we meet quarterly, but you want to keep them engaged in the off months. So we do committee meetings. We were doing a specific board, pre-COVID, a specific board education in 2 of those months to kind of balance. But I will say every year I kind of change it up based on the previous year. If something isn't working, change it. Like never, ever just keep doing the same thing year after year. I don't think we've had, Matt, would you say, we haven't had a schedule that's been 100% the same, other than I do not do more than one like required meeting or event per month. That is it. If there's a party, Christmas party, we do not have a meeting. If there is if there's a scholarship reception or something like that, we do have our meeting, but we try to really keep it to 1 meeting a month as much as possible. Mm-hmm.
I noticed all of your information and materials are all digitized. They're online.
Mm-hmm.
Available, and some of your smaller not-for-profits don't have that yet.
Sure, sure.
Do you have any suggestions as far as what type of, how do you make correlators or paper files, or maybe suggestions on how you can still recreate this in a paper model?
More so like the assessments and things like that. They were all paper before maybe, Matt, when do you think that we put these online? Maybe a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all on paper. And honestly, in that case, what I would do is I would bring them to the board meeting, ask them, give them time to complete it at the board meeting, and leave it with you.
And then a follow-up question for your recruitment of board members.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, how long does it take to really, be able to recruit that member? Is it 6 months, a year prior?
Oh, it depends. I mean, we've had board members that we have recruited for years, and they say the time is not right, and then suddenly they say the time is right. So, we have people that are constantly on our radar. We're having conversations with them. So I would say very similar to asking, they've already been cultivated to the point of by the time you're asking, they're going to say yes. Or by the time you know that they're ready, they're going to say yes. So I would say it just depends. But I'm probably very guilty of just planning a month ahead of time too. I'm just as bad as the rest of them, right? Yeah. Yeah.
For a board that doesn't have any of this in place, doesn't have onboarding or FAQ or
Mm-hmm.
any engagement plans, what would you say would be sort of the priority and maybe a timeline for rolling all of this out?
Yeah. So I would say the first step is I would put together an FAQ as much as you can, just to give an overview of your organization, so that when you begin asking board members, you have it all outlined for them. So that would be my first step, along with you're going to have some sort of vision or plan for your nonprofit. I am a foundation within a larger organization. That is why I have a strategic plan for the foundation. Not every organization is going to operate like that. Fundraising may just be, or board development may be just part of your overall strategic plan or what you're putting together for your organization in general. So I would just put together kind of that FAQ, and then I would just start having conversations with people. Find out who's interested in your organization, who may be willing to support it. Just begin having those conversations so that you can find out who's passionate, who's willing to get behind it, and who's willing to put their time into it.
So sort of to build on that, in my situation, I have a board and an organization that has been going for decades,
Mm-hmm.
but it has a history of not having any of this. So
Mhm.
for a board that's already been serving but without sort of that active piece or board requirements or engagement, how do you help bring them on board knowing that's not been the history?
Yeah, Matt, if you want to jump in at any point, right? You want to, Matt?
So because I was kind of in that situation a little bit, like long-standing organization, board in place and all that, but it wasn't an engaged board. And I think kind of maybe it's hard to pick just one thing that I would do. But the first thing would probably be to start evaluating, doing the self-evaluations and saying, where are we? What do we need to do better? But also doing the action plans each year and having an annual plan. I always made so many organizations, the executive director says, hey, we need to fundraise this. No, I had the board decide what our fundraising goal was each year. It was their goal, not my goal. And so just, involving them in the planning process, and then also have them do self-assessments, board assessments, would kind of that's probably where I would start.
Yeah. And honestly, when I first started, we didn't have term limits in place. We didn't have a succession plan in place. So putting together board roles in terms of chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary committees, just putting that structure in place lets the board see where you want to move to. People will naturally move off the board if they're not ready to move in that direction. And it may take time. You may find that you need to create some honorary board roles so that you can get the right people in place to move your organization forward. But I would definitely say build the structure, and those that are ready will come with you. But the structure is really important. Yeah.
So what do you do when they're not ready? When you have to politely ask them to step off the board? Who's involved in this process? Is that an ED and board president, or is it something that the board president should
Yeah.
really handle?
I would say make sure your board president's on the same page as you are, and then have your board president lead that. But it's about getting the right people in the right seats of the bus. Any Jim Hires fans around here? He used to say that all the time. Yeah. Go ahead.
Could you define a little bit more about an honorary board member?
Yeah, so we basically changed our bylaws to add an honorary board chair or board member or board director. It's a 1-year term. They don't have voting privileges, but they do get to serve on committees and attend all of the meetings like a board member. It's renewed annually each year. And it gives an opportunity for those individuals to stay engaged. They cannot hold officer positions, but they can absolutely be engaged at a level that we want them to be engaged, because I have a board member that's been on the board for 20 some years, and I don't want him to leave the board, but I also couldn't have him be permanent vice chair. So that allowed me to have his involvement. He's a big supporter, keep him engaged, but also allow me to put some structure in place that needed to happen.
It's a good way not to lose institutional knowledge.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who decides who becomes an honorary board member? Is that a board decision?
Yeah, we just do it as part of the recruitment process. I mean, once somebody is for us, it was a natural choice. I mean, we had 2 board members that had been on the board for decades. One of the board members is actually sick, and his health is not well. So he decided that he had to not renew, but it allowed him to stay on the board as long as he was physically able to do so. But for us, it was natural. If one of my board members so once they complete 6 years, they become board emeriti. If they want to continue to be engaged at that point, they absolutely can at a deeper level than emeriti. Emeriti, we invite them to things, we include them in the annual meeting, but they're not really that involved. So the honorary board member is kind of a step between the two. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there an ideal number of board members?
We have 15 board members, so I would say somewhere between standard would be maybe 14 to 17. I think 15 works. Again, I would put that in your bylaws. Bylaws always save you. But that's what I would recommend. And then honorary is on top of that 15. So you always have your structure, and then we have more. We actually even this year wrote in a spot that we haven't recruited it for a student director as well. So if we wanted to have student representation on our board, we have that written into our bylaws as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned the training like you during the board meeting.
Uh-huh.
How much time do you give that? How does that
Uh-huh.
function?
About 10 to 15 minutes, we do a presentation. I mentioned if things don't work, I change it. Board agendas are one thing I change all the time, because every time I get ready to do a board agenda, I think, gosh, this doesn't flow very well. And then I change it. So we have a presentation. We invite them to lunch. We give them 10 to 15 minutes. Some people go over, but that's about it. And then we have our standard old business, new business discussion items type of thing. Yep, action items. But I try to keep people no more than 10 minutes. You know who's talkers before you bring them, and you have a conversation with them. Yeah. Any other questions? I have to run. I'm sorry, but if you have any questions for Matt or I, Genevieve is going to provide our contact information. You're welcome to email. I'm happy to provide these documents electronically. Yeah, so reach out to me. All right.
Thank you all so much for your attention. Again, tomorrow you'll receive an email from me with the slide deck that Julie and Matt presented, as well as the electronic copy of the handouts here. If you weren't registered for this program but want to receive that email, just please write it on my list, which is at the back of the room, and we'll make sure that we get that to you. Let's just thank Julie and Matt again for their time today. If this was helpful to you, our next board bootcamp session will be held on Zoom on Tuesday, November the 15th. Our topic for this one is understanding nonprofit financial statements. So bring your board members to join you for this, and we'll walk you through some mock financials. And I wanted to share this series is part of our larger Center for Nonprofit Excellence at the Community Foundation. We want to help East Central Illinois boards and staff members to be as effective as possible in achieving their missions. We have an Executive Directors Leadership Network that meets once a month. If you're interested in joining that and are an executive director, you're invited. We're also planning to offer some fundraising trainings next year. We're going to call it foundational fundraising for fund development professionals. So please follow us on Facebook, social media. We look forward to keeping in touch. Hope you have a great evening. Thanks for being here today.